In this second episode of AI Stories, our web series around AI education, I have the pleasure to interview Desiree Hambrock, CEO at Spacept. When it comes to electrical grid reliability and preventing wildfires, vegetation encroachment is a key problem. Spacept built an AI to detect and monitor vegetation around the line, and it also saves thousands of tons of CO2 every single year. Follow me.
Thanks for having me, Jeffrey. So I'm currently Chief Operating Officer of Spacept, and essentially Spacept uses artificial intelligence with satellite imagery to provide insights to infrastructure operators. So essentially our goal is to make infrastructure more climate change resilient.
Okay. Could you maybe describe a little bit more the product and how it works? Let's imagine I'm a utility company. I want to monitor the vegetation probably. So could you just elaborate a bit, on what would be my process, my workflow with you?
So a utility would come to us, and normally what we would do is do a short demo on a couple hundred kilometers just for them to understand how our solution works. What we would then do is take the coordinates that the utility provides us of their power lines, above ground power lines. And then what we would do is find satellite imagery that showcases those coordinates. Following that, we would apply our machine learning algorithms on these data sets on a large scale to accurately assess where there is encroachment on the power lines. From there, we either provide that information directly to utilities, or we provide it to some drone operators, so drone service operators, where they can go and do a little bit more in detailed inspection, so they know exactly where to go and when to do it. And this process saves time, money, and is really scalable. And so that's essentially the workflow.
The what is obviously super important, but when it comes to the why, do you have in mind, something where one day where you were super proud, of one use case you've performed, and you were like, wow, we've helped them a lot, and it changed the game.
Yeah, so we're actively helping a lot of forestry services and kind of preventing wildfires from actually occurring. And over the recent months in the western part of the United States, as you may have seen, there has been a lot of wildfires occurring. We've had the opportunity to help track as well as analyze previous wildfires. And it's been very, very interesting. And, just seeing the impact that our analytics and our expertise can provide a lot of these organizations is really fulfilling. And this obviously can be applied to a lot of different countries as well. I know that in 2021, Europe, or in 2020, Australia was a big area for wildfires. And so this is something that we are very actively engaged in and are looking forward to continue with that.
And for example, so you've mentioned these wildfires that you've supported last summer, for example. Did you have some kind of quality assessment loop where people on the ground could take some maybe pictures from the ground and tell you, yeah, your satellite imagery analysis was good, or you missed something here? How do you interact with the human on the ground with this AI?
So yeah, I can just briefly talk about our vegetation management solution, because we've been working with a lot of ground crews to kind of detect and determine how accurate we are. And our algorithms, while they are improving, have sufficiently proved well in the real world. And so essentially how that would work would be, like I mentioned before, we would have the satellite imagery, we would do the analytics, then we would have key risky areas, which we would send to these ground crews to further analyze. And then, yeah, they can decide what they want to do then based off of what they see on the ground.
Could you tell me more about how you measure your impact? Is it in terms of wildfires avoided, or is it in terms of just cost saving because you don't use heavier means? just to understand a bit, where is the value that you bring and how much is this value actually?
Yeah, so we measure success by kilometers inspected, but also CO2 or tons of CO2 saved. Since we have a very social mission at Spacept, where we want to essentially reduce the greenhouse gas emissions of existing infrastructure inspection methods. So those are the two key success measures for us as of now, as far as impact goes.
I've seen that you started up this company like it was in early 2019, right? Do you have any kind of fun fact to mention? Either it is on building the product side or on field or whatever. Just trying to get some insights about building a startup in this field.
Yeah, so I actually started in 2020. But a fun fact about our company is that we are fully remote and global, and we currently have collaborators in 11 plus countries. And so being a startup in artificial intelligence and having the ability to work remotely on so many different, in so many different countries, on so many different continents is really rewarding, but it also poses a lot of challenges.
And maybe a question to conclude. So how do you get the raw data, and how do you deal with labeling your data? Because it's of course data intensive, this type of machine learning models. So who are your partners, and how do you deal with this data qualification, I would say?
Yeah, so we get our data. I mean, our data algorithms are data source agnostic. So it really doesn't matter which source. So if we're analyzing aerial imagery, our models still perform. However, normally, if we're talking about satellite imagery, our main partners are Planet, Maxar, and Airbus. We are in discussions with some stratospheric balloon fleets, excuse me. The big problem here is one, the satellite resolution and capture time. So oftentimes in satellite, kind of the constellations normally take photos on a daily basis. However, the resolution of these photos are very low. And so finding the really high quality data is something that we are still struggling with, but the area is improving every year. And so we're not worried about that moving forward. As far as the labeling goes, we do partner with this one labeling company. I am not sure what it's called. I think Super Annotate. I think they do some of the labeling, as well as I think we also do some labeling as well, but I think I'm not the correct person to talk about that. So
thank you very much, Desiree, for all the insights, and stay tuned for new AI stories. Bye-bye.